In this video, I want to talk about my body transformation for this summer. Now, before we talk about what I did, what I didn't do, we need to first talk about the very beginning. We're gonna start all the way back from January 2025. And the reality is that I fell off of being in shape. I used to be in shape 2 summers ago, but last summer I just felt this sadness, despair look. Like, imagine having something and then the next time when everybody is showing, like, let's say everybody's showing the trophies, or everybody's showing what they achieved, but you achieved that same thing, but when it's time to show it with everybody else, you have nothing to show. You let go of everything. The ball was in your court and all of a sudden, it's gone. Poof, gone. And that is exactly like how I felt last summer. And I told myself, this summer is gonna be different. This summer is going to be even better than 2 summers ago, where I was in the best shape possible. And in order to get there, I decided just to bulk up all the way up to like March, April, and then I started cutting. And I'm gonna show you right now what I looked before I started cutting. You can see that, yes, I put a lot of mass on. Also, like, the amount of fat that I had, and I saw the vision. I saw that in the end goal that it was going to be worth it. But I'm not gonna lie to you, I was laser focused on the end goal, but the reality is that, like, it was very hard to bulk. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. Like, just the idea of me, like, gaining a X amount of body fat, having a puffier face, it was baffling. It was hard to take in. I'm not gonna lie to you. And yeah, so I got big, and I was really focused on getting stronger. I was really focused on putting as much muscle as possible, so that way when I lean out, that everything just comes to fruition, that everything is on par. And what happened is that I got the size that I wanted, I got the strength that I wanted, but the reality is that I had a lot of body fat. And as you see right now, that I was about 164 pounds at my peak bulk, and when it was time to cut, I had to cut from a position where it wasn't too easy. And yeah, it was numerically not that far away. Numerically I cut down about almost 20 pounds. It was hard to take because for 2 main reasons. Number 1, I wanted to just get down to 150, 155 flat, be muscular, be abbed out. And the reality slapped me right in the face at some point, and I was at 150, I was at 155 pounds, and I just wasn't looking like how I wanted to look. And the second part is that the eating habits that I had when I was bulking up, I barely cared about my food choices. I ate as much as I wanted to. I had like borderline no self-control. And now I have to all of a sudden, be dialed in. I have to be laser focused on every single thing I'm doing, every single thing that's going into my mouth. And now imagine going from unconsciously just grabbing something, putting it in your mouth, and eating it, to all of a sudden now you have to, like, you see it, you see the plate, you see, like, a bunch of fruits, you gotta put it on the weight scale. Then after you get the grams, you set the units, you reset it because it's still weighing the plate, and then you put the food on top of it. Like, the point is that imagine having, an easy process for something, and then all of a sudden now you have to add on like 2, 3, 4 more steps just to, put the food from the plate into your mouth and eat it. Like, you can just see, like, even though, like I'm saying before, that 164, 165 to, the way I ended up to be, which is almost 20 pounds lower, you can see, like, yes, 20 pounds isn't a big deal, to be honest with you, but when you want to save muscle and you're already, locked in with the bad habits or the habits that I used to bulk up to begin with, and your reality just, shaking and not being, what you really wanted to be, you can kind of see why leaning down wasn't as easy as, I thought it was gonna be. And honestly, like I said before, the hardest part really was that, I had to go lower in weight than I really thought. Like, in my head, 10 pounds, bada bing, bada boom, that's it, I'm abbed out, I look good, that's it. But, I was 155 and too much body fat. Now I want to talk about the exact goals that I had for this summer. Now, as I said in my previous videos and all my other videos where I was documenting my journey from the very beginning, which, if you guys are new here and you're really interested, be sure to scroll down to my older videos as you can find that. Now, like I was talking about before, I was always talking about having that beach body ready physique. I never wanted to be too big, but I also didn't want to look too small. I never want to be too big, I never want to be too small. I actually honestly like an average physique, but with muscle, with definition, like similar to like how do I explain it, like a male model physique. Like a male model physique is my ideal physique, and that was my goal. That's exactly what I strived for, and that's exactly what I'm close to getting, or I think I got, but it may differ. Now, when I was cutting, I was initially starting my cut at 2200 calories. As that was going on over time, my body just slowly adapted to 2200 calories. At some point, it was just like I wasn't losing any weight. Like I was doing my cardio. I went from doing 15 minutes of cardio to almost 30 minutes of cardio, walking on an incline, the max incline, for 30 minutes straight. And you know, at some point I was stalling out at 2200 calories, and I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I had to go as low as 1700 calories, 1600 calories, just to get to where I am now. That just goes to show you, like, your body is really good at adapting, and at some point you either have to just keep burning more calories, or you have to start eating less and less and less. And I did a combination of both, and that's how I got to, you know, the body that I have today. Now, the calories and macros that I chose is that in the very beginning, I had my macros to where as long as I had 170 grams of protein, it didn't matter, as long as it fit the calories, whether it was 2200 calories, 2100 calories, 2000 calories, etc. As the calories were getting lower, I had to make sure that 170 grams of protein was still there. Sometimes when I'm not fully able to intake my protein levels, you know, via eating foods, sometimes I would actually just use protein shakes. And I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I really hate protein powder. And yes, I understand it's cheaper, I understand that, you know, you can put more protein for less calories, but you know, when it comes to at the end, like, this doesn't break out my skin, and this is way more convenient. Like, I would rather, you know, pay more and just to have this already ready, and all I have to do is just open it up and that's it, versus having the powder, the big jug of powder, going through all that extra steps. And yes, you know, call me lazy, call me whatever, but that's how I feel, and that's how I'm gonna stick to it. So this always works for me. There's nothing more to it. Pretty much what I'm trying to say here is that no matter where my calories is, and no matter how much my calories has dropped over time, my protein has always stayed the same. And carbs and fats, before I truly dialed them in, which was around June, that's when I truly dialed in my carbs and everything else. You know, as long as my protein was good, my carbs and fat distribution, you know, it didn't matter to me at all. As long as my deficit was there, as long as my protein at that time, you know, from the time I started the cuts all the way up to June, I was okay with it. I was good. When it came to, you know, June, I had to up the dial a little bit, because now we're actually 21 days before actually the season of summer, you know, less than a month away. So now that, you know, I had my calories slowly lowered already by this point, my protein's already locked in, I dialed up my diet by now removing all like complex carbs, the starches such as pasta, such as rice, potatoes, and anything that would, like, you know, make me look more bloated. And what I would do instead is, if it's not, you know, fruits and vegetables, meats, seafood, or anything that's like either like simple carbs or just protein in general, or fats, like, I just don't eat it. That was the key to go from a little bit lean to where I am right now, which is my leanest points. And that was a game changer, because now I also started to drink a lot of water, 4 to 6 bottles of water a day to be exact. And that was so that my face can look more chiseled. It was mainly just to, you know, flush out my system, so that way it would be easier for me to look aesthetic, you know, on a more consistent basis. And that was, you know, the biggest thing that I did. Another thing that I have done was taking creatine, and I'll actually show you guys right now. This is the creatine that I take, and I'm not gonna lie to you, I take like 8 to 10 grams of creatine a day, but I don't use powder, because I noticed that when you're mixing in the powder, that some of the powder, like a third of it's like still stuck to the cup, and I'm not scooping that powder out just to, you know, taste a bunch of, you know, powder texture on my tongue. I mean, I'm not doing that. I mean, you guys can do that if it works for you, but not me. Yeah, that's pretty much what I've done when it came to, you know, the diet aspect of, you know, my cuts, from going from, you know, where I was before to where I am right now, you know, nice, chiseled, good looking. That's pretty much what I did on the diet end. Now, when it came to my exercise, I went from working out 4 times a week to working out 5 times a week. And this was more because, you know, I finished school and I had more time on me, and it was a lot less of the goal, because the reality is if my life still, was going crazy, I was gonna probably just stick with 4 times a week. But I have more time now, so I go to gym 5 times a week. And within those 5 times a week that I'm in the gym, I'm always training my abs. I'm always going to do cardio 30 minutes every single time I'm in the gym on an incline treadmill. I'm also training hard, but I'm doing a lot less strength work and a lot more working on getting that nice time under tension and getting all that, that nice feeling. So that way I leave the gym, I have a pump over time, that all those reps, all that amount of volume just makes my life a lot easier, as I notice the gains a lot faster. And when you're getting lean, you notice it even more, because now you have less body fat. So now when you get a pump, you look almost like 30% better than beforehand. Now, the biggest struggle that I had when it came to getting in shape, when it came to overall going from like a puffy physique, a lot of body fat, to where I am right now, is that the hunger that comes as you cut down more and more and more and more is crazy. Like, I sometimes, when I was cutting down, now I'm stable like I said before, but when I was cutting down, like, I felt like I was starving. Like, I felt like it was getting bad. I'm not gonna lie to you. That was one of my like bigger struggles. And the second biggest struggle was keeping up with my strength. Like, it became harder and harder and harder. Before, I was stable with my calories. Like, now it became very hard to keep up with my strength, because what I was once able to press, what I was once able to lift, just became like heavier. Like, it felt like now I went from like pumping in it and all that, working hard in the gym, lifting good weights, to now like the weights here and like I'm dying. I can't even keep my arms straight. But you live and you learn, and you just live with it. Now that I'm stable, like I say all the time, I'm happy now, because I got like 80-85% of my strength back. So yeah, I'm happy. And those two are really my biggest struggle. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, I'm not gonna come here and talk on the camera and say like how I was like I was dying and it was the hardest thing in my life, because the reality is that, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, like, I've been lean before, so I understand that when I'm getting lean, when I'm cutting, I understand what I'm getting into. And the whole point of documenting everything was not only for me, but for you guys as well. Like, I want you guys to see me go through this from the very beginning, document it from the very beginning, and I want you guys to be inspired to go through your own journey, to have your own motion going on. And before I keep rolling with this video, if you are enjoying this video so far, if you already made it this far, you might as well like the video and subscribe, as you're clearly interested in this content, as it motivates you. You probably are inspired to do your own journey, and if you just like to see my face, also subscribe. So yeah, let's keep going with this video. Now, when it comes to motivation, the truth is guys, is that to begin with, I always had a group of friends that I always work out with, and it just made my life about 3-5 times easier. Why? Because when you hang around people that also want to improve, that are also in the gym working as hard as you are, sometimes and some days they may be working harder, and some days you're working harder than them, and overall you gotta grab them and motivate them for that day. Because the reality is that not every day you're gonna go to the gym and you're always gonna have a smile on your face. Like, some days you're gonna go to the gym and be like, you know what I mean? You're not gonna want to go. The thing is that when you go with your friend group, you go with the select people that are also putting in the same work as you, it just will overall make your life 5 times easier. And that's exactly what I did. So it wasn't too bad when it came to motivation. And my advice to anybody that wants to transform their body is that you guys honestly should take it slow. That's exactly what I did from the very beginning. Just take it slow and make it as easy as possible to start, because I see it everywhere online where it has to be this grand change, this life-changing movements. But the reality is that if it becomes hard at first, like you go from where you are right now and all of a sudden you want to go all the way up, you want to start from cloud 9, then it's just gonna make your life 10 times easier to stick to. And when it's hard for you to keep going, at some point you're just gonna stop. So with my logic, what I've done for my transformation is that if you start slow and you make it as easy as possible to start and to stick to, it's impossible to fall off. Like, at some point you're gonna be like a car on a highway that's traveling interstate, cruise control all the way, and it's gonna feel equally as easy, and before you know it, give it a couple months and you're already at the destination, and you're gonna feel much better. I promise you guys. You guys don't want to diet in a way where you're suffering. You don't want to make your exercise regimen in a way where it feels like like a chore. Like, it feels like, you know, you're honestly suffering. Like, if you guys like a sport, incorporate that, you know, when you're working out. If you guys have a hobby that is, you know, requires you to be physically active, have your exercises, you know, work around that. You want the process to be as easy as possible and also as enjoyable as it can be. And that's what I want to leave you guys with in this video. So if you guys feel inspired by, you know, my body transformation, and you guys are just overall, you know, interested in my content, you know, you feel inspired and you're interested in more content, be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in another video.